All right, thank you for staying. Time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We have in the studio Nuruddin Abdallah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, joining us to give perspectives to some of the stories. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. All right, now let's take a look at the stories, beginning with Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The first story there, which is the lead story actually, says 23 freed train passengers reunite with families after meeting Buhari. President says security challenges have evolved. That's on the riders there. How Mamu sabotaged rescue efforts. We owe victims, families a debt, says the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. Now, if you take a look at the other stories above the lead story, 13 dead, 12 missing in Zamfara canoe mishaps. Then you have PDP crisis. Rivers Assembly recognizes Omehia as ex-governor, seeks 600 million naira refund. Discordant tunes over sealing of Dangote cement in Kogi. And then you would have other stories. Well, the pictorial basically shows you the president during his meeting with the freed victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack. Beside that, meningitis kills 56 in 32 states of the FCT. Navy seeks partnership with Media Trust. NGX Group appoints Kweranga as chairman. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust. Not forgetting the 11 schoolgirls of FGC Birnin Yauri still in captivity. This is 477 days. We still have one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 450 days still in captivity.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Leadership Friday. Yes, on Leadership Friday, we have the lead story that says travelers, residents stranded as flood grounds Lokoja. We have riders that say north cut off from south, economic activity stalled, oil marketers blame fuel scarcity on situation, FRSC advises commuters to take alternate routes Suleja Bida Mokwa Road for southwest, Nasarawa Oweto Adoka Otukpa axis for southeast travelers. We also have more stories. After 12 days in London, Tinubu returned to Nigeria. And then just below the pictorial there, we'll fight for full return of $5 billion Abacha loot, says PMB. We also have Eid el-Maulud. FJ declares Monday public holiday. Man condemns attack. Kogi threatens to recover cement company. And then 2023 campaign finance, INEC invokes 50,000 naira donation limit. And these are some of the stories, on Leadership Friday.
All right, on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, the lead story says twists and turns in Wike's Rivers. The writer says Assembly derecognizes Omehia as ex-governor, orders him to refund 696.5 million naira within 7 days. Government to assent document today. Government withdraws criminal charges against Amechi and Koli, and that's among others. You have other stories there that says Nigeria has received over 2,000 military fighting equipment in 7 years. That's according to President Muhammadu Buhari. You have other stories beside the pictorial. FG ASU consultation for out-of-court settlement fails. Courts to rule on ASU's application today. Zamfara government agrees to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. Youths protest in Ibadan over EFCC arrest. I think these are the major stories on the Tribune this morning.
All right, up next is This Day newspaper. At the top of the page there, you have Dangote cement closure. Man berates Kogi government, says action illegitimate, anti-business. A writer here says state says no payment was paid, vows to recover company. We have CBN, 2.10 trillion naira disbursed to 426 projects under real sector facility. We also have below the nameplate. Wike set to assent motion stripping Omehia of former governor title. And riders here says lawmakers order Omehia to refund 696 million naira benefit. Rivers withdraws criminal suit against Amechi, co others. The lead story here talks about Buhari meets 23 freed Kaduna train victims, charges service chiefs to replicate success. We have writers that say appreciates military for bravery, lists unprecedented acquisition of military platforms, hardware in 7 years, says he inherited nation at crossroads with bombs going off at frightening frequency even in cities. Bajabi Amila commends federal government, armed forces. Can hails president, security agencies over release, and military vows to track down train bombers. And below that story, you can actually see a pictorial of the president meeting the freed abducted train victims in Kaduna yesterday. And these are some of the stories on This Day newspaper.
All right, now let's look at the Guardian newspaper. And the lead story on the Guardian says Tinubu returns, Obi in Harvard, PDP seeks urgent solution to crisis. The writer says Tinubu to address APC campaign crisis. Rivers Assembly de-recognizes Atiku's ally, Omehia, as former governor. Atiku will win by 7 million votes margin, Ayu boasts. And then you have other stories. Above the lead story, hunger, major cause of insecurity, says Afe Babalola. FG blames fuel crisis on flood amid new regulations. Man condemns invasion of Kogi, moves to recover Dangote cement plant. And then you have also 2023 polls. Northern Kan accuses APC government of using hunger poverty against Nigerians. You'll also see the story that says, despite multiple checkpoints in Seme route, many travel in and out of Nigeria illegally. So these are the stories on the front page of the Guardian this morning.
Up next is Punch. Budget reps justify 8.4 trillion naira borrowing, 6.3 trillion naira debt servicing. We have federal government reviews rail security. Buhari meets freed hostages. Court rules on ASU's appeal. Out of court settlement fails. You also have 82-year-old French writer wins Nobel Prize in Literature. Below the nameplate, which is just beside the nameplate here, CBN disburses over 2 trillion naira to 426 industries. And we have Kogi claims Obajana plant ownership, Dangote man kick. The lead story here says PDP crisis. Aggrieved governors report Atiku to BOT, list peace conditions. And we have writers here, ex-VP reneged on post-primary promise to Wike, London deal, says source. Wike moves against Atiku's ally, delists Omehia as ex-governor. Atiku will shock Nigerians, win with 7 million votes margin, Ayu boasts. They have excitement as Tinubu returns from UK, prepares for campaign. The pictorial there tells the story. And then Ogun monarch allegedly blinds a trader for dancing with Queen. We have Ogun tanker chased by miscreants explodes, 3 killed, 12 vehicles burnt, and Abuja patrol scarcity persists. FG blames Kogi flood. And these are the stories on the Punch newspaper.
All right, on the Nation newspaper this morning, the lead story says, Buhari to military, replicate Northeast feat nationwide. President visits rescued train passengers. Train services on Abuja-Kaduna route return soon. And then you have also above the lead story, just above the lead story, it says, Redeemer is Nigeria's best private university. Aisha Buhari Wike for conference. Other stories, I'm happy to be back, says Tinubu. These are the stories on the front page of the Nation this morning. All right, so let's get perspectives on some of these stories now. This morning, like we told you, Nuruddin Abdullah is here with us. Thank you again for joining. Now, quite interesting stories this morning on the front pages. Let's begin with the security issue. It appears that we are making quite, I would say, remarkable successes in recent times with the release of this, the 23 train attack victims.
Yeah, that's correct. After 6 months in captivity, I think, I think about 2 months or so ago, the CDS told journalists that they have reinvented their strategy. And fortunately, after that, the CDS Irabo speech, we saw changes. Like in Kaduna, we saw the General Officer Commandant of the Wandif leading troops to Bernangwari forests. And the last couple of weeks, so many terrorists were either eliminated, arrested, victims rescued. We saw severally the general, the GOC, leading the troops. That's quite commendable. And even if you look at the most terrible area, the Abuja, Kaduna road, it has been populated by the special forces. And I think since the attack on the gas brigade around Buhari, Zuba, the Kuje prison, there was no major incident, So,
it seems as if the responses of government to this train attack, looks different. We've had several abductions in large numbers. Some of them are still in captivity. Now we seem to have moved. I mean, except for Daily Trust, I'm not seeing any paper keeping track of what the students of the Birni Awuri still in captivity and all of that. And then no one is just talking about those ones. One of the students of the Bethel Baptist School still in captivity as well. And then perhaps some in the Northeast as well that have been abducted. We seem to have moved on and then, forgotten.
Yes, you're correct. But the Kaduna Abuja train attack was different. Birni Yauri was not the first attack on a federal government school, right from, even public school, right from Chibok and what have you. More importantly, the effort made, like I said, after 6 months, they were abducted on March 28th, after the terrorist attack. The first attack, there is this saying that I am a moving train, I am unstoppable, or what have you. I saw a post recently, I said, oh boy, terrorists have stopped a moving train in Kaduna. So maybe you have to change that. So the government was embarrassed with this attack. It was unprecedented. It was the first a train was stopped. People were killed, dozens abducted, and they were in captivity for 6 months. The efforts by the CDS came belatedly, so to say. If they have adopted this measure long ago, wouldn't have reached this stage. And we hope that the CDS, because he was in charge of mostly this operation, is equally not forgetting the Birni Yauri girls and some other people, you understand?
Okay, well, earlier you actually talked about, seeing results after the CDS's, speech. Why do you think it took so long for the results to actually show?
If you follow all the media conversation, the military itself, there is this lack of synergy among them. Take, for instance, we're told, he said it in plenary, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Master Wasi, said that he saw a security report that the DSS have warned, how many times? More than 40 times, if I'm correct, an impending attack on the Kuje facility. But no action was taken until the attack was done, was successfully executed in a justable manner. So that lack of synergy actually. But I think maybe with what happened with the Kaduna train victims and with what is happening around the Birnangwari general area, some part of Katsina, you know, we saw effort, a combined effort. Yeah, by the military, by the police, by the DSS themselves, you know. So we hope this will be replicated in all other theater of crisis, so that, you know, we'll just say bye to all the conflict.
All right, you know, there's another dimension to this. Certain revelations came out with the release of these 23 abductees, and it's not the first time anyway, since the operations where Tukur Mamu, one of the negotiators, was arrested. We've had several allegations. Now, one of the relatives of the victims yesterday also mentioned, as captured on our riders, that Tukur Mamu seemed to have sabotaged efforts by government to secure their release, perhaps much earlier, and all of that. So, do you think that maybe that's another dimension to this whole kidnap thing, issue of racketeering, or maybe compromising certain negotiating principles?
Yes, we don't have expert negotiators in Nigeria, unlike in some other parts of the world, because kidnapping for ransom is new in the country. That is one. And secondly, I think the lacuna created by the federal government created an aperture for the likes of Mamu to key in. And families of kidnapped victims are always agitated.
Perhaps desperate as well.
That's it, you understand? So they are going to do all they could within their power, because these terrorists, they are murderers. They can kill at will.
And some of the statements made quite indicting. It said that at a certain stage, the issue of money was not even there. The terrorists were not demanding money, but Tukur Mamu, was said to be the one to have introduced the issue of, taking money and all that.
Yes, I read that statement as well. But I want to say here that Tukur Mamu is not here to say his own side of the story and the reasons for introducing money. I am not speaking for Mamu. I'm not saying Mamu is clean. Perhaps they have been charged to court. All these things should be used by the relevant agencies to prosecute him if he found guilty. But what I'm saying here is this, from Mamu's revelations at that time, you understand, families were trooping to him, desperate. At that time, there was even no any interface between the families of the victims and the government. Nobody was talking. We saw how the family members were demonstrating at the train stations in Abuja, and they had been dispersed by the police. Nobody was talking to them. So you can see the desperation. And these people were doing videos, flogging women, children, including 1-year-old, including a more than 8-year-old woman, you understand? So the agitation, the desperation will be...
actually said that was a bit dramatized. Said it yesterday, it was dramatized.
But the issue is simple. They were in the forest, and the victims are here. You only see the other side of that one. So Tukur Mamu had to come in. You see this, it's okay, and you know that people, when they're kidnapped, there was that. And at the beginning, you remember what Tukur Mamu was saying. He said that they are going to be swapped, and what if you... He has been outspoken. He said, but the government was not coming in. Now, maybe what the committee should tell us is what actually happened. Did they pay money? It wasn't a military operation. Why did it take them this long? If they know they can impanel a committee to go and interface with these people. Why are not doing same for the Birnin Yaouri girls? They have been married off. So, so the whole thing, you know, is the fault of government. If they have acted that fast, the likes of Mamu couldn't have even have any leverage.
All right, Mr. Nuruddin.
You know, to profiteer from it.
All right, I think we should move away from that particular story and look at other stories. Now, can you share your thoughts on the PDP crisis? You know, it's been one thing after the other. You know, Wike at the center of it all. And now we're seeing that all thanks to him, the Rivers Assembly is recognizing Omehia as ex-governor and asking for a refund of 600 million naira.
You know, that's very dramatic, you know. Because, or rather, you know, the thing is, he's taking his PDP issue, you know, to a very, it's been childish. You know why? In 2015, it was the same weekend. Yesterday, they rely on the Supreme Court judgment that ousted Omehia as governor of Rivers, saying that he wasn't validly nominated through a valid primaries. And Amechi, who was even in Ghana, he didn't participate in the general elections. So he was installed. We're talking about 2007. That judgment was there when Wike became governor in 2015. And he wasn't in good time with Amechi. In order to spite Amechi, he, as a lawyer, he ignored that Supreme Court pronouncement and recognized Omehia as governor. And he hung his portrait at the government house. And he started paying him his pensions and gratuities. Fast forward to 2022. Omehia is now with another political rival of Governor Wike, like Amechi was in 2015, Atiku Abubakar. He used the instrumentality of the National State Assembly to derecognize Omehia, relying on the Supreme Court judgment that he ignored.
In the first place.
In the first place. So this looks childish, actually. But by and large, the Electoral Act specifically states that we have passed the stage of substitution. If Wike defects, what happens to the governorship candidate he installs? The Senate is out of him. He has to remain in PDP. If he rocks the boat, he will be the first to suffer from it because his anointed candidate will not make it. And whoever takes over, Rivers is not Nasarawa, it's not Yobe or Jigawa. Those trillions, maybe at the end of the day, he'll have to do the design anyway. So I think maybe he's doing all these antics, you know, to raise the stakes so that when finally things settle, you know, he will get the better part of the deal.
All right, now let's move on to another story. This time around, the flood situation in Lokoja is now beginning to have a widespread, or I would say a national effect, going by the recent statement by the NMDPRA, where they said that they are attributing the flood situation in Lokoja as part of the reasons why we are seeing queues returning back to the nation's capital here in Abuja. And all of that movement have become very difficult, and one of that route is one of the major routes linking the southern part of the country to the northern part of the country, and all of that. Now, are we treating this Lokoja disaster as a national disaster? You know, from what you're seeing,
it's not a Lokoja thing. Maybe because it is important because you mentioned. Trucks, we can't trucks fuel to the federal capital. But looking at the mortality rates, other states suffer most, like Benue. Look at what happened in Jigawa. My understanding of the situation here is this. NIMET has been predicting this thing before I came to the studio, I overheard you saying that movement, it is not Bank of the Rivers. No. It's zero absence of municipality development agencies across most of the state capitals. Some of them have been abandoned during the colonial times. And that's the situation in Lokoja. We always talk about Lagdo Dam, and what have you. That's not it. Go to Kano. You remember what happened in Kano? We had our own bout in Kano. Because
but this time around, the flood situation seemed to be more unprecedented, unlike what we have seen in the past. There are those who are saying that, there are some people who are saying that the case in Lokoja is perhaps even worse than what it was in 2012.
Yes, why?
So don't you think that there's a the dimension of the climate change situation, or perhaps maybe the overflowing of the river banks?
It is not the overflowing of the river banks alone. The disruption of the municipality system. There is zero municipality, whatever, in Lokoja, just like we do in Kano. Even drainages are not there. Population explosion.
Okay, now, but then aside, setting up IDP camps for those affected by flood and also granting relief materials, what is the government actually doing that to make sure that this such a disaster doesn't occur again?
How many canals do we have inside Lokoja? Lokoja geographically lies within the river Benue, River Niger stuff. None. All available spaces where in case of emergency like this you can evacuate have been built upon. Just like Kano, you know what happened in Contemporary? Canals built by colonial masters. Why would we have the shops? But the government was forced to demolish most of them. That's what Erufai is doing in Kaduna. It's difficult, it's hard, but it's the reality. Most of the state capital, go to Benue, Makodi, it's the same thing. Zero municipality stuff. Every available space has been allocated, corner shops, and what have you. So when something like this comes, what happens? In Kano, for instance, now where are you going to evacuate to? Even in Lokoja. Lokoja is not as populous as Kano, for instance. Where are you even going to? None. When you know you are geographically disadvantaged, if I use that word, you have to make arrangements. That was why, look at the hurricane that is happening in the United States. Look at the casualty. Very insignificant figure because people evacuated.
All right. Okay, before we leave, because of the time, let me just quickly get your take on this. Some youths in Ibadan are protesting and demanding the what do you call the dissolving of EFCC. Yesterday I saw the story and I was really wondering. They want EFCC disbanded. They want EFCC
just like
and all that. So when I saw the story, I was like, "What's this?" Can you let me get your take on this?
That's not the first time that is happening. In 2003, if I'm not mistaken, during the Obasanjo time, EFCC operatives were attacked in Plateau when they went to arrest Darie. You remember, not even arrest Darie, to arrest some key officials in Darie's administration at that time. I remember it was Ribadu that was the chairman. There was a media war. Darie at that time was even saying that we are, is it Tarok, he mentioned, and it's not going to Plateau. He said we eat dogs. He said Ribadu send dogs to Plateau, but not knowing that here we eat dogs. You don't forget, during Eradua's time, when Eradua wanted to arrest, EFCC wanted to arrest Ibori, They were even calling for the disbandment. That's even a lighter something. EFCC officials were attacked by militants. Gunfire. So it's normal. Thank God, thankfully, Dariehu EFCC officials were being attacked in Plateau. Now it's a free man by the same government that set up EFCC, by the same government that Article of Faith is fighting corruption. Ibori is back after his jail time in the UK. So it's understandable. When the late IG, Tapa Balogun, was arrested by EFCC for corruption, traditional rulers from his area, numbering more than 17, stormed Abuja, said, please release our son. He hasn't done anything.
So would you call this maybe corruption fighting back or something?
Of course, they were induced. You know, they are youths, unfortunately. Somebody who is being charged. The simple thing they will do is no media trial. Take him to court.
Okay, but we've actually seen cases where, you know, the EFCC in, you know, climes like Lagos and Ibadan, you know, force their way into people's houses to, you know, make arrests. Could that be one of the reasons, you know, when it comes to human rights, you know, at least we know that this is not supposed to happen?
We are talking about methodology now, methodology of arrest. And there is no smoke without fire. You're talking about this Yahoo thing. I think that's what happened. I think an actress, you know, took her to her Instagram, that she has been violated, you know, and what have you. But it's like, take NDLE for instance. Go to VGC, Lagos, Victoria Garden, whatever, Lekki, whatever. You see mansions, but you see the type of drugs that they have there. Tramadol worth 8 billion. A warehouse where we had 197 billion worth of cocaine. So, and you know, if you are fundamental right is violated, you can go to court. EFCC is not above the law. If the procedure is wrong, go to court. But to call for it is disbandment. That's the most ridiculous, and you know they are youths.
But again,
5,000.
Well, anyways, let's just leave it to rest at this point.
Even less than 5,000
because of our time. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and bringing your perspectives. As always, quite interesting perspectives here. Our guest reviewer is Nuruddin Abdallah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, giving us perspectives on the dailies this morning. We'll take a short breather, and then when we return, the program continues. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that